Oh, forget it.
I'm telling you. Look, Dan LeFebvre is here, okay? End of story. So what you need to do is go curl up on your couch with a blanket and some tea and listen to this episode with Dan LeFebvre. Let's go. Oh, and I still got my squeaky chair. I'm so confused. Oh my God, I haven't done a show in so long. I literally forgot for a moment how to fade the music. I'm like, wow, the music is loud. How do I turn it down? And then I remembered. All right, well, welcome everybody to the Podcast Engineering Show. My name is Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for a bunch of companies and business authors and all that. And every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We talk shop is what we do here with podcast producers, engineers, and other specialists. And I have a background in audio engineering in the music business. And since I entered podcasting about 9 years ago, about 9 years ago, I have noticed a huge lack of audio skills in the whole podcasting space. And that's why this show is here. So you can learn how to produce good audio. You can gain the skills you need. If you implement the best of what you learn here, your podcast will sound a lot better and you'll spend less time producing them. Really, time is money. And I believe in you. I believe that you can produce really great sounding audio. Regardless of your experience and all that, you can learn, you can produce really good audio. All right, and by the way, Podcast Engineering School, the next semester starts January 2021. And don't forget my new, smaller course, Getting New Clients at Higher Rates. Yeah, if you're a podcast editor or producer, you want to get some new clients at higher rates? Like you want to charge like 2 times what you're charging now, or 3 times, or 4 times what you're charging now? Well, guess what? Those clients are out there. And I created a course to help you go get them. Go find them and get them. All right. Is that enough? That seemed like a long intro. How you doing, Dan LeFebvre?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
I know. So, it's so funny. You have to do an intro to your show every time because you're doing the intro for the person who literally is pressing play for the first time ever, right?
Right.
And because the new person, they need to know all that. But all the people who've been listening, I don't know. I guess they have to hear it again and again.
It becomes part of your brand, though. I mean, the repetition.
So you're saying podcast production techniques on a silver platter is part of my brand now?
Yeah. Sounds like a great tagline.
All right, so we're going to do the new enhanced speed round, which, okay, I've done the speed round pretty much forever, and I don't even know. 6 months ago, I designed a new speed round, and I used it once or twice, and then I forgot about it, and I've been doing the old speed round. So we're going to go back to the new enhanced speed round, and this is where I'm going to ask you, Dan LeFebvre, let me introduce you properly. You're the host of Based on a True Story. So everyone go check out Dan's show, Based on a True Story, and I'll put that link to that in the show notes as well as your Twitter handle and stuff. So everyone go check out Dan's podcast. And so for the speed round, Dan, we want to know mainly what is your current equipment and software and workflow. So just give us a speed round overview of, what equipment you're using and what it's plugged into, and then what software you're using to produce the episode, and all the way up until the MP3 uploading it. So give us the quick overview.
All right. I record using an SEV7 dynamic mic. It's plugged into a Zoom R16 board that I use as an audio interface. And then I record into Mixcraft as my DAW. Once I have it recorded, then I also use Mixcraft for the primary editing, of course, as well as RX7 and a little bit of Audition at the end. Because that's for the final loudness at the end there.
Okay. And you mentioned your microphone, right?
Yep. That's the SEV7.
Oh, the SEV7, that's right.
Yep.
I was typing something when you said that. Okay, so let's move on to the next question in the speed round. How did you initially get into podcasting?
So I worked for a company. I was running a content marketing team, And one of the guys on my team suggested we start a podcast to go along with the blog that we had. Problem was he didn't know anything about podcasts other than he wanted to start one.
Right.
So I was like, I've never done one. I've listened to them, so let's try it. And that was my first show and how I got into podcasting.
How long ago was that?
That would have been that would have been probably about maybe like 6-7 years ago.
Okay. And okay, so for your own show, when you started your own show, do you have the same equipment and software as you do today, or did you start with something different?
Very similar. The only difference really is the microphone. I started with a Rode NT1 and ran that in through a DBX 286S. Unfortunately, there was a power storm that knocked out the 286, and it was cheaper to get a dynamic mic than it was to replace that. So I ended up switching to the dynamic mic that I'm using now.
Okay. Interesting. The Rode NT1. That's the mic I've been using right now, and that's the mic I've been using for the last few months, actually. And I
love the sound on that thing. It's so great. And the downside, of course, is using a condenser, you have to be a lot more quiet. But I worked around that by just adjusting my schedule because it was a solo show when I first started. So I just record at night when everybody's asleep or there's not neighbors mowing or anything like that, and be fine.
Nice. And what was your worst nightmare session?
There was one of the interviews that I did. We tried to get. I was using Zoom at the time, and was trying to get him connected, and he wasn't very tech savvy. And couldn't get his computer to work or anything like that. And he's like, "Okay, the only way I'm going to do this is if we do it on my phone." So I went through with it, did that, and it sounded like he was like, I don't know, 30 feet away from his phone the entire time. It was a nightmare. Oh,
that's a nightmare, dude. I feel for you there. Wow.
Yeah. It was bad.
Oh, all right. It happens. And what is do you know what your next purchase is going to be in terms of equipment and software and stuff?
I don't know, but I have been thinking about replacing the R16. So, and the thing is, I'm kind of going back and forth with Zoom's their new release, but then I'm also hoping to see what Rode is going to come back with on the Procaster and see if they come back with a version 2 or something like that.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's the new enhanced speed round. Did everybody like that? I liked it. Thanks, Dan. All right. So now let's go back and pick through everything that you mentioned. So, but first of all, your show, which is called Based on a True Story, is you said you started as it was just you, like a monologue. Do you now have co-hosts and stuff like that?
Now I do guests.
Oh, you do guests. Okay.
Yes. So originally, it was a completely solo show, completely scripted, and now I have historical experts and stuff that I interview. Okay.
And what's your preferred method of connecting with them and recording over the internet?
Right now, it's Squadcast. Okay. I've tried the variety that I'm sure every podcaster has tried, all the different apps, and Squadcast has been the most reliable for me.
Okay, cool. All right, so this microphone, we got to talk about this, and I wonder if Bandrew Scott did a review of the SE Electronics V7 mic. Did he do that? Do you know?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's kind of too late for me, but yeah.
Yeah, well, all right, so we'll find out. I'll put the link in the show notes if he did. But it's a dynamic mic, and SE Electronics is definitely a good company. They make a few different microphones, and they even make, what is it, like a gain booster they make is called, I forget what it's called. It's not the Dynamite, is it?
I don't remember the name of it. I know what I can picture it, but yeah, I'd have to go back and look.
All right, that's what a bad job hosting for me right now. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, but the V7 microphone is a dynamic mic, like you said. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that. How do you like it, or what is it, and what is it like?
I like it. Yeah, it does a really good job of blocking out background noise. I work from home, and so I record from home, and I've got pets. and I've got neighbors, and so it's one of those things of always trying to battle. I live in a flight path of an Air Force base, and so there's always planes flying over. So being able to block out a lot of that background noise was the primary factor for me. And the reason why I went with this one was I was talking with the rep at Sweetwater, and he recommended this. That kind of explained what was my situation, and he recommended this as an option. Instead of, I was thinking about getting the pod mic when that first released, but they were sold out of it. And so he's like, well, try this, and figured I'd give it a shot, and I really like it.
All right. So the SE Electronics V7, and it's just a handheld cardioid mic, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much, if you think of if you're familiar with the SM58,
right,
then it's pretty much like that. It looks exactly like that.
Okay. Yeah, just a regular handheld mic. That's good.
Yep.
And you have it on a shock mount or in a stand and stuff?
I do have it on the RØDE arm, and it's got a little shock mount on it to hold it. Not like a traditional shock mount, but more just a handheld type shock mount.
Okay.
It's got a little bit of
like the elastic bands and stuff holding it in?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So the RØDE boom arm, how do you like that?
I like it. That came with the NT1 when I used that, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And
okay,
so it works really well.
Okay, cool. All right, and so then, so you're recording with Squad. You got your mic, and tell me about the room you're in. Is it like an office in your house, or what? Where are you?
Yeah, it's an extra bedroom that I've converted into my office because I work from home for my full-time job outside of the podcast as well. So I've done a little bit of sound treatment to it. I basically went and bought a bunch of moving blankets and put them up all over to help catch some noise. And of course it's carpeted, so that catches that as well. That situation has changed since I started the show as well. I used to record with a bunch of clothes around, kind of like, you think a lot of starting podcasters record with in a closet, very
right.
Similar. Kind of expanded since then, since I've been working from home. But I'd say it's a nice isolated room where I can come in here and record and not have to worry too much about picking up too much background noise. Okay.
And are there windows there? And is there like any roads nearby, stuff like that?
There's, I've got a window, but it's all covered. I've covered it with moving blankets. Then I've also got some ClearSonic baffles that are movable, and so I can move those around as I need to around the room. Oh, so I've got those covering the window right now.
Okay, so the ClearSonic baffles, what is that? Is that something you bought already made? Or
Yeah, you can just do a search for them. You can find them. They're I don't know the dimensions off the top of my head, but maybe like 6 feet tall by maybe like 4 feet wide. And they're foldable in the middle, so you can pick them up and move them real easily. And it's just to absorb sound. So it almost create your own little sound booth. I've got 2 of them, so I can put them next to each other and kind of block myself off or block off a portion of the room or whatever I need to do, depending on whether I'm recording for the podcast or recording a video or whatever I'm doing.
And are they like freestanding? Can you just stand them up anywhere?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Completely freestanding.
That is cool.
Yep. Yeah, they're really handy.
And are they expensive though? Because now I'm really interested. How much are they?
Yeah, I got those many years ago. I think they were a couple $100 each.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Well, I guess it's all relative.
Okay.
Fair point. But yeah, I got those. It was a company purchase when I was doing the first show, and then they sold them to me afterwards. So I got them for pretty cheap myself, being used. But originally they were a couple $100 each, I think.
Okay. This is cool. I'm gonna look that up afterwards. So I'll look it up and I'll put it in the show notes as well. All right, and then you got it's a Zoom R16, and we know it's an interface, but it's also a mixer and a recorder, correct?
Yes, it is all those things. I only use it as an interface now, though.
Okay. Right, so the Zoom R16, I hadn't heard of this, but it's interesting. It's kind of large. I mean, meaning it's not large, but you know what it reminds me of? The L12, the Zoom L12.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty big. If I were to buy something now, if I were starting my show now, I would not be getting this because of the size. But when originally purchased, I was talking about my first show being a branded show for the company I worked for. They bought all that equipment, and then I was part of a downsizing, and so they didn't need the podcast anymore. So they didn't need the podcast equipment anymore. So they sold it to me for super cheap. So It's one of those things of, well, I can get this for really cheap, or I can go buy something new on my own, and decided to go with this. But it is larger.
Okay, yeah. It's like it's not that large. It's probably the size of like a notebook. Like, well.
Yeah, it's probably.
I was actually referring to an actual physical paper notebook, but I realized after I said it that
nobody thought of that.
Yeah, no one thought of that but me. But yeah, maybe like 16 inches by 8 inches.
Yeah,
and then like maybe what, an inch or two thick, something like that.
Yeah. So I guess you put it that way. It's much. I guess it seems like it's much larger than some of the stuff that I see coming out now.
Right. Yeah, like a Rodecaster Pro is probably a little bit smaller, but it actually might be a little bit thicker as well. Like the height might be more.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have one of those, so I haven't compared.
Yeah, so here's the thing, just for you listening, but as we were connecting to record this episode, which we're connecting on Squadcast, here's one thing I've noticed about Zoom products in general, and this applies to all Zoom stuff, like the L12 or even all the H6 and the H4n and all this Zoom audio stuff. One thing is you got to be really careful with the mic preamps and Zoom stuff, because it's not the highest quality, and so if you turn it up a little too much, then you get distortion. So Dan, you and I spent a little bit of time just making sure your level was right, and I hope it is okay. Although on my end, I'm still hearing some distortion. It seems like once we started the show, you got more excited and were talking quite a bit louder, which is normal. So that's sometimes that happens during sound checks. You're like, can you just talk into the mic to check the mic? Okay, yes, hello, check mic, check 1, 2, 3, and then the show starts. It's like and completely different level. You weren't that extreme, but anyway, the point is, if you have any Zoom audio equipment, be careful with the mic pre's, because they're so touchy, and yeah, it's rough. And the thing about it is too, it's like if you get distortion on your mic preamp when you're recording, it's really hard to remove. Not even like, because it's not even clipping like how in RX7 or RX8 you can use the declip, right? If you record something too hot and it's the peaks of the waves are clipping, you can use the declip and it'll restore those peaks, and it actually works. But if something has mic preamp distortion on it, that's a distortion that you actually cannot get rid of. So anyway, just wanted to mention that, since we sort of overcame that, hopefully, before we started this.
Yeah, until I started talking too loud again. Getting too excited.
No, it's all good. Well, you're local. You're also recording locally, so I'm hoping that recording is is good. But either way, we'll work. It doesn't sound bad. Let's put it, for sure. So the R16 and that well, obviously it connects USB. And I forgot to ask you, what computer are you using? You on a Mac or a PC?
PC. It's a simple all-in-one that I bought just for recording, so I can get everything set up and then sit down, know that everything's ready to go, and not have to adjust anything.
Nice. So it's a laptop or a desktop?
It's an all-in-one, so it's just the screen and that's it. Yeah, I mean it's a desktop. It's not a laptop, but yeah.
Oh, I didn't actually know that you could get Windows like that, because that's how my Mac is, right? My iMac.
Yeah, similar to an iMac, except this is a Lenovo. Yeah.
Okay, Lenovo.
Similar concept. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. You like that?
Yeah, I mean Honestly, it was something I only wanted to spend a couple $100 on a system just so I could set it up to record. And I was tired of recording on the computer that I was editing on, that I was doing other work on, and doing everything. I just wanted to be able to sit down, know that everything was already set up,
Right.
and I wasn't going to change it. So all I do is record on this computer. As soon as I'm done, I send it over to a different computer where I actually do all the editing and all that. So
Nice.
that's all just for this one.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about Squadcast, but I want to remind everyone that I'm very excited to talk about Mixcraft, which is the DAW you're using, because I think you might be the first guest on this show who's using Mixcraft.
Really? Okay.
I think, I don't know, everyone tell me if I'm wrong, but I guess we could just search my website. Oh, wait, my website's down for maintenance.
Oh, no.
So, all right, so before we get to Mixcraft, which is the DAW, and then we're going to talk about RX7 because you have it, and then Adobe Audition because you're using that, and then you set up your private RSS feed, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to get to all this. But first, Squadcast. So you're using that for your guests. So when you use Squadcast to record your interviews, you're plugging your mic into your Zoom R16, and then you're recording in Squadcast. Are you also recording a backup somewhere else?
Yes, I also have Mixcraft open, and I will be recording locally as well. So I basically get two versions, the Squadcast version and my local version. And 100% of the time I use my local version.
Okay.
But I also have the Squadcast one as a backup.
Okay, and that's just for your mic, though.
Yes, although I actually also will record the guest in Mixcraft as well. I have that coming in as a second track.
Okay.
Yeah, so I get backups of both.
Okay, but for the guest, your primary recording is probably the Squadcast recording?
Yes, that's the one that I will use unless there have been times where Squadcast has gone out,
right,
and only have my backup or something. I have to call the guest on the phone or something like that.
Right.
That's why they're called backups.
Yeah. All right, so when you do record a guest on the phone, how do you do that?
I do it through Skype and just do a phone call through Skype and then record again in Mixcraft. Got it.
And so in those cases, there's only one recording of that phone call.
Yes, I also use Skype recorder in the background to generate, and it's usually an MP3, so it's not going to be as high quality, but it does give me a little bit of a backup. I haven't tried Skype's new recording features yet. I saw that they did that last time I updated, but I haven't tried those yet to see if that'll give me another backup.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so that's Squadcast, and Squadcast is really good 99.9% of the time, like everything in the world.
That's higher than a lot of things these days.
That's true. Why is my stomach growling? Can you guys hear that? Jeez, man. Eat some food. All right, I'm talking to myself. All right, let's get to Mixcraft. So Mixcraft is a DAW.
Yes.
And like I said, I haven't heard many people using it. So why did you start using Mixcraft?
So when I first started the show, I was using Audition because it came with Creative Cloud that I already had a subscription to. And then my daughter started getting into music, and she wanted something that could control her keyboard as a MIDI controller. So I was looking at DAWs that would be able to do that, and Mixcraft was one that was simple enough that she figured it out real fast, and it was simple enough that it'd work for me. So I went ahead and picked it up. I've tried Reaper. I used Reaper for a little bit, but ended up going back to Mixcraft just because it's super simple and it works.
Cool. So the look and feel. So did you like the look and feel of Mixcraft better than Reaper?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I should say the experience of it. I had a lot of trouble getting Reaper to arm the tracks properly. I don't know why. It just seemed like it wasn't working the way it should, and it seems like that's something that should be really simple.
Right.
But I figured it was easier to just use what I already had than get something new. As much fun as it is to play with new stuff.
Yes, that's a good example of look, it's the DAW is just a tool. It's like you got to get some stuff done, and you use a tool that you like and that you know, and that's easy, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's no more to it than that.
End results, what matter?
Except for the crazy people who are like, no, Pro Tools is the best, bro.
Well, that wouldn't work for me. I don't have any Apple devices, so kind of out on that.
Well, no, you can get Pro Tools on PC.
Oh, can you?
I think.
I thought it was Apple only.
Actually,
Maybe I'm thinking of Logic.
Fun fact, Pro Tools started on PC. Was it late 80s or something? I don't even know when they started.
Oh, okay.
It was originally for PC, and then they made it for Mac, and then the Mac, it took off on Mac, obviously, and then, but yeah, I don't know. I don't use Pro Tools.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I always just assumed it was only on Mac, but again, I'm not looking to switch DAWs.
Yeah. So Mixcraft, is it a very similar DAW to other DAWs, or does it have any cool little functionality that you like?
It's very similar to others. The only other thing that is cool about it that I mentioned is using it for virtual instruments and things like that to make music, which is nothing I've really done for the podcast, but it's something that since I have this set up, my daughter can make music as well.
Cool. Did she make the theme song for your show?
No, she did not. She was not interested in doing anything like that. She just wants to make random things that sound random.
I just realized, because I started making music again, and I'm using Ableton Live, and I'm also using Reaper for the mixing part of it. And but I just realized that now that I'm getting back into music, and I also decided I'm going to start writing songs, I need to write a theme song for Ralph M. Rivera's podcast, which I don't think he's doing it much anymore, but right? I need to write a theme song for Ralph. Why haven't I done that yet, Dan?
I don't know. You want to do it right now?
Want to do it right now? We could do it right now. I want to write some lyrics. All right. Maybe after that'd be funny, actually. Do it live.
Everybody's doing live streaming these days. Might as well, right?
All right, we're going to do that then. We'll do a live. I'll do a specific live stream sometime just to write a song for Ralph's show.
There you go.
Yeah. And it's going to include disgusting noises and foul language. Well, we'll bleep it, but
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
It reminds me of the Larry Sanders Show. Remember that on HBO? And
the
theme song.
Yeah.
And the theme song was like, "This is." Oh well, wait, not Larry Sanders. This is oh my God, I can't remember it now. He's like, "This is the theme song. We're almost halfway finished. How do you like it so far? This is the theme for Larry Sanders Show." Like. It's just really stupid, but it's funny, obviously. Anyway,
it's very self-aware.
Yeah. All right. So Mixcraft, you're digging that. I'm not gonna switch, obviously, but I do want to look at that, at least screenshots. All right. Anyway, let's move on. So, okay. So after you record everything, you assemble everything in Mixcraft, right? And then you that's where you do your mixing and editing.
With the exception of. RX7, which when I'll use that for cleaning up background noise, things like that as needed.
And when do you do that? Like you take the raw recording and clean it up in RX7?
Yeah, so I'll do that as soon as I'm done recording. I'll export everything out of Mixcraft and bring it into RX7 in order to do any cleanup that's necessary, and then save that off, bring that back into Mixcraft to do the actual editing.
Got it. Okay, so you clean it up and
right. That way, if I need to make changes later on, I have that file that's a separate file that's cleaned up. If I need to do more cleanup or something that I didn't notice, I can do that. And then because Mixcraft is just loading in the referenced files, any edits that I make are all going to be the same as long as the length of that clip is the same.
Yes, I love that. I do that too.
It's saved me many times because there's a lot of times where as I'm going through editing, I'm like, oh. Their notifications went off. I didn't even notice it while we were recording or something. And so I have to go in there and clean that up. Or if it's something that I can't just cut out completely with editing, I have to go into RX7 to fix that.
Right. Sometimes I do that with plosives, like, because sometimes a person's plosives are not that bad, but then when you start using compressors and EQs, all of a sudden you hear their plosives. And so what I'll do then is go back into RX. I'll use a deplosive on that file, like that's that separate saved file, like you said, and I'll use a deplosive, and then I'll save it, and then I'll go back into Reaper, and Reaper reloads that audio.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much the same workflow that I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do that very often, but it is handy when you have to do it.
Yeah, I do it. I'll do it on every single episode so that I have that file. So if I do go through the process of editing something, and interviews can take a lot of editing time, I don't want to have to be like, oh man, I really wish I had done that when I first started.
Right.
So I'll just go ahead and set up that file initially. That's my editing file.
Yeah. Yeah, I do the same thing. For each person's voice on every episode I ever work on, I create that processed file from out of RX. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's great.
And I also do you level it also in RX? Like, do you save it at a certain LUFS level? Because I save it at -23.
That's what I use Audition for. Because in 7, can you export LUFS? I think they added that in 8, didn't they?
No, it actually it doesn't have to do with 6, 7, or 8. It has to do with if you have advanced or standard RX.
Oh, I have standard.
Yeah, advanced has the loudness control, which you can set the LUFS. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that. So I export it out of RX and then bring it into Audition to do the LUFS.
Got it. Okay. Any other cool things about RX that you like that you found handy?
Their de-reverb is magic. I don't know how it does it. I mean, there's obviously times when it's not going to fix everything, but there's been times where I'm like, oh man, this is not going to work too well. And it does a great job. I love it.
Cool. Yeah, it's so handy. iZotope RX. You're using 7, 8 is the newest version. Okay, so then you're in Mixcraft, and that's where you assemble everything and do some editing. So what do you do once you're in Mixcraft? Do you start adding do you use EQs and compressors and stuff like that?
I do on my voice. Varies sometimes on the guest. I'll use Nectar, which is also iZotope. I'll use that, and it kind of runs through an automatic EQ system.
Oh, okay.
You play the audio, and then it tries to figure it out automatically, and then I'll kind of go from there if I feel it needs it or not. My voice I try to keep pretty consistent across all the episodes, but guest voice are going to be different, and so sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Okay. So that Nectar, I haven't actually tried that, but I know that iZotope has that feature where you can, the software will listen to the audio and then suggest EQ and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. Play the audio and then it tries to suggest that. Yeah. And then if I need to, I'll throw, I also use Ozone if I need to throw, more advanced stuff on there for EQ.
Oh, you have Ozone too. That's cool.
It's just the Elements version, but yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That's also iZotope.
Yep.
Okay, and then, so for your guest, you'll use Nectar. Use anything, do you whip out anything else in Mixcraft? I don't know why I said it that way.
Not consistently. I mean, I take it as a case-by-case basis. It comes with tons of plugins, and of course, there's others that I've considered getting, but I pretty much stick to Nectar and Ozone are the consistent ones that I'll use.
Well, the thing is, once you start hanging out with guys like me, we're gonna just keep talking about it's almost like I'm almost like a drug dealer. I'll keep talking about plugins, and I'll be like, hey, do you have this one? Do you have that one? Did you try this one? And you're gonna be like, nah, man, I just keep it simple, man. And slowly but surely I wear you down, and then you're gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna get the Sheps Omni channel.
That's actually one of them that I've thought about because of listening to your show. I'm like, man, that sounds so cool.
And then a year and a half later, you know, Dan LeFebvre's gonna have his house on the market because he bought every single plugin on the planet.
That's what I'm trying not to do. I'm trying not to do that, but
all right. So okay, so then you mix it, obviously, and so you have your music in the DAW as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first step of editing is to go through and edit the actual conversation for the interview, to get those all together, and then after that, I will record the introduction and the outro. So the after show, which is just myself. I record that afterwards because I also write it after I'm done editing. So I do a little two truths and a lie game. That is, I do that in the very beginning, 2 facts, and then one of them is a lie. We'll say the answer at the end. And so as I'm editing, I go through and figure out what I'm going to do for those. So I'll actually write that after I'm done editing, record that, and then edit in the introduction and the outro. It also helps me save time with the guest. I can be like, we can just get right to the interview. I'm not going to do the actual introduction on the call. I can just, get right to the interview, and then I'll set them up later.
That's cool. Yeah, unlike this show where we actually we literally start from nothing and start the intro, play the music, and do everything. But Barry, you like it that way, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Can't argue that.
And actually, Barry, you were telling me earlier that you had. By the way, Barry's with me in the studio here, everybody. Just so you know, he was telling me earlier that he was listening to Ralph M. Rivera's podcast. Again, he tried to listen to it once before, and he tried to listen to it again this morning. Was it? Yeah, this morning. He says. And so, what are your new thoughts on Ralph's podcast, Barry?
There's no activity, no giggle, no nothing.
There's no giggle. Man, Barry's a little harsh over here on Ralph.
Harsh critic.
Jeez. All right. So Mixcraft. So then, when you're done in Mixcraft, you export it as what, a WAV, or do you actually export your final MP3?
I'll export each channel or each track separately.
So you render the stems.
Yeah. So I do that, and then I bring it into Audition, and then from there I'll run the match loudness to get the LUFS level on each of those, and then from Audition I'll export as an. Well, actually, I take that back. I changed my workflow recently. From there, I'll export as a WAV file that then I bring back into RX in order to resample, because I record everything at 4800 because I also do video. And then final step in RX7 is to resample that to 44.1 and then export that as the MP3.
That's interesting. Yeah, 48 kilohertz. That's what you record in.
Yes.
But you want to publish your episodes at 44.1 kilohertz.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
By the way, FYI, because, and by the way, why do you do that?
Because I also will publish video, and so the 4800 kilohertz will sync better with the video file.
Right. 48,000, by the way.
Yeah, 40,000. Yeah.
So, but wait a second.
I'm looking at it right now.
But my question, but I understand that. That's great, and that's what Alan Tepper and others have been saying for a while, that we should all just switch to 48 kilohertz. But so that's great. But then why do you bring it back to 44.1?
Well, that's what the final MP3 is that I export for the actual podcast.
Right. But I'm saying why, because I publish my podcast at 48 kilohertz.
Okay.
I don't put it at 44.1. I put mine at 48.
Oh, interesting. I'd always heard that it's recommended to do 44.1.
Well, it is recommended. So this is the reason I'm digging into this, because I want to make this point. Over the years, there's been a lot of people, and I talked with Alan Tepper on a whole episode about 48 kilohertz and all this. The thing is, there's a lot of old school podcasters who for years were correctly telling everyone that keep your final files should be MP3s. They should be at 44.1 and all this. And they said don't use M4A files, right? And they said don't use 48 kilohertz because some players can't play it and it causes problems and all this stuff, right? Which, okay, back in 2004, 2006, 2008, maybe all that was true. But these days, everything. No one has heard of that problem for years and years and years and years. No one's had that problem. I put out an M4A in 48 kilohertz. I've never had a problem ever. And so what I'm saying is that old advice, it seems to live on. And it's not bad advice because, look, if you do that, if you make an MP3 at 44.1, it's fine. It'll work. It's fine. But it's technically not true that you have to do it that way, right, to avoid problems. So,
well, you just saved me an extra step in my workflow. There you go.
Yeah. So it's just, and I understand it though too, because like things, it's like same reason why the Blue Yeti is still popular, right? Because some idiots back in 2005 or whenever were like, this is the best mic. And maybe it was the best mic then, but it's like, really? Every person in 2020 who says, hey, I'm going to start a podcast, what mic should I buy? You have 17 idiots chiming in, buy a Blue Yeti. Like, really? Like, does anyone, do people understand that things change and evolve? No, yeah, maybe not.
Nothing changes. Everything stays the same. No, but that's great. I'm glad to hear that. I will definitely take that out of my workflow if that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So in Adobe Audition, that's good. So what you're using the match loudness in Adobe Audition to set each track to the same LUFS level, right?
Yes. And
then you can just export it right out of Audition. You could probably just export it as an MP3 and boom.
Yeah, that'll save me a step.
Yeah, that'll work.
I'm always for saving steps.
Now
I'll use that time elsewhere.
There's a deeper technical thing, which James Cridlin pointed out to me, which I sort of knew in the back of my mind, but I never thought about it. But when you encode an MP3 at 44.1 versus 48, it actually, because there's less information, meaning the frequencies only go up to 22,050 kilohertz, the frequencies. So there's the MP3 at 44.1 contains frequencies from 0 to 22,050, but 48 kilohertz contains frequencies from 0 hertz to 24 kilohertz, right? Because 24 is half of the 48. So if you save it at 44.1 and you encode it at 44.1, it actually the MP3 file compression has less frequencies to compress, so it can actually compress those a little better. Because with 48 kilohertz, it has to compress more frequencies into the same size kind of thing. I don't know.
So you're going to get a larger file.
Yeah, right. It'll be a larger file. So maybe what I'm saying is not true, but there's something there. There's something it's like a scientific distinction that I'm not able to put into words. But anyway, all right. If anyone of you scientists, well, Paul Figiani will figure it out. Right, Paul? Paul will tweet about it in a few days.
Nice.
Thanks, Paul.
I will look forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah. No, seriously. Paul tweets a bunch of good stuff. Okay. Okay, so then you're in Audition, use the match loudness. And so wait, when you use the match loudness on each of your tracks, you obviously use them on each voice. You use the match loudness on each voice, but do you also use the match loudness on the music?
No, not on the music, just the voice.
Okay.
That's why I export them separately.
And so you set the level of the music by ear, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's super quick, super simple. It's not the star of the show by any means.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
That's nice, right? When you keep it simple, then you can just...
Yeah, it's just all it is a little bit in the beginning, and then little bumper from the intro to the actual interview, and then a little bit to kind of say, hey, the show's over now.
Right.
So just bumpers.
Because I thought of it, and I think other people are thinking of it too, why do you not use Adobe Audition as your DAW?
I did when I first started.
Okay.
But it just goes back to, I just like Mixcraft's interface and just
cool.
The way it works. It's just simple. I find it a lot simpler than Audition.
Cool. Yep. See, that's it. It's a tool. That's it.
It's a tool. Yeah.
All right. Now let's talk about your private RSS feed. So did you create by hand your own private RSS feed?
No, it's a WordPress site with I'm using RSS plugin. But basically all I'll do is once I get an episode done, I'll take that and I'll upload it there. And then I can listen to it in my normal podcast app.
Right.
I can pull that in. I've got some family members that will listen to it just to make sure that everything's good to go. And I'll listen to all that before I actually schedule out the episode to go public.
Okay, so are you storing your actual MP3 files on your website server?
For as long as I'm listening to them. As soon as I listen to it and make sure that there's no further edits, then I take it down.
Oh, okay. And then so your own private RSS on your WordPress website is just for your own.
It's just for my own just QA basically is all it is. It's just to make sure that I didn't make any mistakes in editing. There's nothing glaring that I need to change, and then I take it down and move on to the next one. Okay,
so what media host do you use for your show?
I'm using DreamHost for my. Oh, I'm sorry. That's for the site. For the podcast, I'm using Libsyn.
Oh, Libsyn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That's a cool way to preview your episodes in your podcast player. It's like that's pretty cool, man.
Well, it helps me be able to listen to it while I'm doing things that I normally listen to podcasts, right? I'm going for a walk or in the car. But it also, when I started the show, I used Pocket Cast as my primary tool, and it didn't have the ability to actually upload a file to the app. And then I've got family members that use different podcast apps, and theirs didn't have the ability to upload a file to it directly. And so it was like, how can I basically publish the show, but only to a certain number of people for only a limited amount of time? It's just simple to create a WordPress site and throw it up there.
Right. And the cool, so you could also just email the MP3 file to everyone, but that's clunkier and that sticks around. Like, they'll have that email, they can save that email, but so your way of the private RSS feed is pretty cool because everyone can hear it and test it out in their natural listening environment, and then you just remove it and it's gone.
Right, and it actually saves me a lot of time on the editing too, because I don't know if all apps do this, but Pocket Cast does, where you can actually share the time code. And so when, say, my brother is listening to an episode, he's like, oh, there's an error right here. He'll share that time code, and so I know exactly where that error is in the file.
That's cool. I really like that. That reminds me of there was a studio in LA, and I'm sure other studios have done this too, but I heard tale of the studio is a recording studio in LA, and they somehow had their own little radio transmitting tower. Like, either it was nearby or it was on the roof of the studio or something. So what they used to do is in the studio, they would mix the song and they would put it on they wouldn't. They would mix the song in the studio, and then they would somehow play the song through the radio transmitter, and the band would go out into the parking lot, and the band would go sit in their cars, and they would tune their radio into whatever station that was, and they would literally hear the mix from the studio in their cars in the parking lot.
Okay, I want to change my answer to my next purchase. It's going to be a radio tower.
Right?
That's so cool.
How cool is that? But I wonder, and they must have, I wonder if they added something to the signal path because actual radio, they process the crap out of their signal. Like, it's really limited and compressed. So I wonder if that studio added that radio limiting and compression as well, or if they just played it raw. But anyway.
It would make sense that they would compress it, though, if that's the purpose of listening to it that way.
Yeah, and then since you're creating that, you could also just turn off that radio compression and listen to it raw if you wanted to. You could do both.
Yeah, do both. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Huh, that's smart.
Yeah, because hearing with the compression, that like you said, that's the natural way to hear it if you're listening in your car on the radio.
Yeah, you want to be able to preview what people are going to be hearing.
Yeah, you want to hear the actual thing that people... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's smart.
All right. Well, so you changed your answer. You're going to buy a radio tower. That's good.
Yeah. I should probably check to see if I'm even allowed to install that on top of my roof.
So what else didn't we talk about? I think we kind of went through most of your process.
I think we pretty much talked about everything. Yeah,
All
I can't
right.
think of anything else.
Well, this has been awesome, man. Everyone can go listen to your show. It's called Based on a True Story. The link will be in the description, and you could search for it anywhere and all that. Dan LeFebvre, this has been awesome, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
And are you willing to yell and distort your mic with me?
I will do that.
Oh, that's the intro music. Sorry. See, I mentioned it. Now I have to keep that little mistake in the episode, don't I?
Yep.
This is what happens, you know? All right, well, Dan LeFebvre, thank you very much. Everyone, go check out his show, Based on a True Story. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I really appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, email me or send me through the contact page on the website, which hopefully is back up soon. Jeez. All right, and we're all going to yell, sound great. Dan, let's go. Let's go. Sound great!
Oh, forget it.
Walk away from me when